Hi, I'm Nick Magato, Lieutenant here at Bethel Township Fire Department in Miami County and Co-Executive Director of Brothers Helping Brothers. Today I'm presenting Cancer Prevention is Not an Option, Make Today to the Day. This has been a collaborative effort for the past 9 months and amongst many firefighters from who have only 1 year on the job to many years on the job. And we feel that bringing this program to you is important to not only prevent but educate on different needs of cancer. We hope that you enjoy our program today and that today you'll make today the day.
Hi, my name is Chris Cooper and I work for the Springfield Fire Rescue Division in Clark County, and I just wanted to explain to you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. 9 months ago, a group of people passionate about cancer prevention came together to learn from each other and to create a presentation to help educate other firefighters. We come from all over Southwest Ohio, career, part-time, volunteer. You're going to hear from chiefs with 30 years, and you're going to hear from a rookie with less than a year on. It doesn't matter what department you're from, there are changes you can make to help prevent cancer. I hope you can get something out of it. Even a little change will help you in the future. Welcome.
Hello there, my name is Jim Bernica. I'm a Dayton firefighter and also the founder of the Firefighter Cancer Consultants. I'm here in Stebbs Park in Centerville, Ohio at the Miami Valley Firefighter EMS Memorial. Here are my two young boys here. One getting ready to turn 6 on Sunday and one just turned 3 a couple weeks ago. You know, in a couple months here in the fall, my good friend Bobby Hetzer is going to be added to this wall for occupational cancer. He's also going to be put on the wall in Colorado Springs at the IFF Memorial. I'll be there as part of that ceremony as well. I just actually found out last week they had the numbers for this year. There's going to be 252 names added to that wall, and 201 of those are from cancer. So this really is a huge epidemic in our fire service, and we really need to do everything we can to prevent that. It's not just about us, but it's about these guys, our families in general. Everything we're doing now could affect us later on. So I really hope you take all these lessons of our Southwest voices, to heart. And now we'll play a tribute for my friend Bobby Hetzer. So thanks again.
Dispatch to firefighter Robert Hetzer. Dispatch to firefighter Robert Hetzer. It is with deepest regret that we announce that the bell has been struck for the last alarm of firefighter Robert A. Hetzer, Jr., retired member of the Dayton Fire Department. Firefighter Hetzer has answered the call for his last alarm and has returned home safely to await his next assignment. May the sun shine upon his path. May the wind always be at his back. And may the Lord hold him in the palm of his hand until we meet again. Time to rest, our brother. We've got it from here. Dispatch clear.
Hi, my name is Chris Cooper and I work for the Springfield Fire Rescue Division in Clark County, and today I'm going to be talking about the modern fire environment and what kind of chemicals you can expect to find there. So I'll start from the beginning. Oversimplified, fire is a chemical reaction, and it's really an oxidation reaction, but a structure fire is extremely complex. In reality, it's multiple chemical reactions happening all at once. Plastics in various forms like synthetics, foams, hard plastic, glues, different types of wood like treated wood and new growth wood are all being consumed, and in most cases being formed into very hazardous chemicals. Some of these chemicals are pretty commonly known. Chemicals that you know you're supposed to avoid, like arsenic and mercury. Others aren't so common, like acrolein. In addition to the chemicals I just mentioned that will cause you significant issues right off the bat when you're exposed to them, there are chemicals with repeat exposure can cause you problems down the road, like causing new onset or early onset COPD and asthma, and the reason why we're here can cause cancer. Some of the more commonly found chemicals that can cause cancer are going to be the PAHs, or the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These are hydrocarbons just like methane and propane, except they're formed by the burning of other hydrocarbons, like the ones found in plastics. They also have a different molecular structure. They're flat and they form rings. They're also very flammable, just like the normal hydrocarbons, and every single one of them will cause cancer. Some of the more common PHs that are found at structure fires are going to be benzene, naphthalene, styrene, toluene, xylene, butadiene, ethylbenzene, and benzopyrene. Basically anything that ends with an ENE on it is going to be a PAH, and it's going to cause cancer. There are other carcinogens that can be found at structure fires. The more common ones are going to be formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is used in the glues of engineered wood. So they're going to be, formaldehyde is going to be inside of wooden eye joists and finger jointed trusses. Acetaldehyde and acrylonitrile, which is used to make plastics. In addition to the carcinogens, there are other hazardous chemicals that are going to be present. Acrolein, I mentioned that before. It's a biocide, which means it kills everything. Arsenic, it's used in treating and preserving wood. During a fire, it gets evaporated into the atmosphere. Benzoyl chloride, it's used in chemical warfare, and it reacts to the moisture inside your lungs to create hydrochloric acid. Phosgene, it's also used in chemical warfare. Carbon disulfide, very toxic. Glutarol, which is used as a surgical disinfectant. Hydrogen chloride, which reacts to the moisture in the atmosphere to create hydrochloric acid. Mercury vapor, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and isocyanates are all respiratory irritants. So they're going to create or cause early onset COPD and asthma. There's also sulfuric acid and phenol, which causes chemical burns. I know it seems like I'm throwing a lot at you. That was a pretty long list of chemicals. But in reality, those are just the common ones. Every fire is unique. What it creates is dependent on how much oxygen it has available to it and what kind of fuels it has. So there might be fires that will create every single one of those chemicals. There might be fires that create some. That's going to be most of the fires, really. And there are going to be fires that create none of those chemicals and create a totally new set of chemicals. There is absolutely no way for us to tell what each individual fire is going to create. The only way to protect ourselves is by wearing our SCBA. But I want to ask you, do you wear your SCBA at every fire? Do you wear it during the entire process? Do you wear your SCBA during car fires, or trash fires, or defensive fires? How long do you wait to take your air pack off during overhaul? There's a large amount of evidence that is showing that we have the potential to be exposed during every single one of those situations, especially during overhaul. We need to keep our packs on longer. We need to be wearing our SCBA. Coming up with reasons not to wear your air pack is pretty easy. For car fires, defensive fires, and trash fires, you could say that you're out in the open. You're in fresh air. There's no way that you can be exposed. In the case for car fires and trash fires, they're controlled within minutes. For overhaul, the fire's over, there's no more smoke, there's no more issue, you can take it off. This is just not true. You need to be wearing your air pack. 2 studies done by NIOSH and the Royal Society of Chemistry tested 2 car fires. They took measurements inside the passenger compartment, inside the engine compartment, and in areas around the car. And what they found around the car were high levels of formaldehyde and PAHs, specifically toluene. They also found high levels of carbon monoxide and isocyanates. And isocyanates are from the car paint that is burning. It's not too far of a stretch to assume that the same results are going to be found at trash fires, with a little bit of a difference. We can expect the kind of chemicals we can find at car fires. We can anticipate them. Trash fires, we can't really anticipate them because we don't know what's there. People throw away any number of things that can be turned into new and more hazardous chemicals for us. We need to be wearing our air packs. Defensive fires, if you can find high levels of carcinogens and toxic gases at car fires, it is absolutely plausible to find the same results at a fully involved structure fire. And really, I can remember multiple defensive fires where I can smell the fire, where you can smell that telltale structure fire smell. And we need to all understand what that smell is. That's not fresh air. That's the chemicals we're talking about. Some of the chemicals have very noxious smells. Others can be completely odorless. The overall phase probably provides the biggest potential for exposure for us. We're just taking our air packs off too soon. A study done in Oregon tested 38 fires during the overall phase, and they found every single one of the chemicals that I just mentioned. Every single one. I also said every fire is unique, so they didn't find all the chemicals at every fire. The CO is the most common, no surprise there. They also found large numbers of PAHs, but it was kind of a toss-up which ones they found. Formaldehyde was also a big one. They found arsenic at a few of the fires, but when they did find it, they found arsenic above the short-term exposure limits. They also found nitrogen dioxide, hydrogen chloride, acrolein, glutarol, all above short-term exposure limits. This is an atmosphere primed to cause cancer. Unless you're waiting more than an hour to conduct overhaul and to take your SCBA off, you need to be wearing your SCBA. Up until this point, I've been mainly talking about inhalation hazards, but inhalation is not the only route we can be exposed. Absorption is also a big issue for us. Your skin is very absorbent, specifically around your neck, the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, your groin, and underneath your arms. And to make matters worse for us, for each 5 degrees of temperature increase your skin goes through, it becomes 400 times more absorbent. But there are ways for us to protect ourselves. We can wear our gear. We can invest in the new barrier hoods. If your department doesn't have the money for those hoods, the Bureau of Workers' Comp has grant funding for this. You can apply for it and you can invest in these hoods. We also need to be cleaning our gear. Gross decon at the fire scene and putting our gear through an extractor at the firehouse. We need to be showering after every fire and changing our uniforms. We need to be making change. If you make it a habit of not wearing your SCBA or deconning your gear or deconning yourself, you might not get sick after the next fire or the fire after that. Maybe 10 fires later you'll still be fine. But I promise you, these chemicals are found at such low levels that they don't really cause you any issues right off the bat. But they do build up in your system. And down the road, they will cause you problems. If you don't get early onset COPD and asthma, I promise you, you'll get cancer. There's no escaping it. We need to make a change right now. Wear your air pack. Decon your gear and yourself. Make a change. Make today the day.
Well, my topic of conversation today will be the wearing of our SCBAs during the overhaul stage of fire operations. Overhaul, as we know, is the phase of the fire with little or no smoke, but all fires, no matter how big or small, can and will generate toxic smoke that can cause acute or chronic health issues. One of the greatest dangers to firefighters today is the one that is largely ignored: poisonous gases resulting from incomplete combustion that exhausted firefighters may be breathing in. I'll not go over the toxins that are produced during this stage, as those have been covered and covered again. None of us dispute the fact that they are present during overhaul. This discussion will be about the change of mindset concerning the wearing of an SCBA during overhaul. From the firefighter wearing it to the incident commander understanding the needed resources that are required for us to have the mindset to keep wearing our SCBA. Tradition is hard to break. I know. I overhauled for years without my SCBA on. Why? Because that's the way we did it. Officers would take theirs off, so the younger firefighters would take theirs off too. Why is that? Were they afraid of ridicule? Did the officer get on that firefighter for having to go fill another air bottle back at the station after the fire was over? Who knows? Surveys have shown that peer pressure may prevent firefighters from wearing their SCBA about half the time during overhaul. Is it because the firefighter became fatigued, so the SCBA came off? Cylinders back in the day were made of steel and were very heavy. We all remember those. When we went to fiberglass tanks, we were all very happy that they were lighter. Now manufacturers are increasing the bottle size for more working time, which brings the weight back up. This brings in firefighter fatigue and should be monitored by officers in command. Resources must be on the scene for proper rehab. Who is responsible for the change in the environment? The chief, the officer, the member? We all are. Firefighters are trained to recognize hazards, so why not wear the SCBA during overhaul? We know the hazard. Let's look at a hazmat or confined space situation. What do they have in common? There's no smoke, but the air is monitored. Why? Why is the air monitored? Because we know there is a need to know what we are breathing, so why not in overhaul? It makes sense, right? Both are unknown atmospheres, yet we preach SCBA use in the other scenarios. So why not in overhaul? On that note, let's talk about CO. CO should never be used as an indicator to take our facepiece off. Even our 4-gas meters do not have the capabilities to monitor all the possible toxic gases that may be produced during a fire. What are the first 3 ways to reduce our exposure to toxins? Avoidance, avoidance, avoidance. Wearing the SCBA during overhaul virtually eliminates the respiratory hazards. According to studies, a positive pressure SCBA provides a protection factor exceeding 10,000 according to the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine. What does that mean? It means that compared to the air outside of the mask, contaminants breathed in are reduced by more than 10,000 times. Air purifying respirators, APRs, only provide a protection factor of around 50. These may reduce particulates that are suspended in air, but firefighters need to realize that toxic gases are not particulates and they may offer no protection. A Burgess study has shown that cartridges did not prevent increased lung permeability in firefighters. This study determined that cartridges should not be worn as respiratory protection against overhaul hazards. SOGs clearly indicate for all personnel operating while contaminants are suspected to be present should be using their SCBA. Company and command officers rarely enforce the PPE regulations to the letter of the SOG. The risk is rationalized as acceptable because the potential consequences seem remote. No one sees the results from the action. For example, if a firefighter is not wearing his helmet and gets hit in the head, the consequences are seen immediately and the behavior is changed. If a firefighter breathes in toxic gases, the consequences may not be seen for years to come and no behavior is changed and it continues on for years. Yet, we always fill out the department's exposure report, so we acknowledge that we knew the atmosphere to be hazardous. Why the one action but not the other? One is exhausting, and the other is done in a controlled atmosphere back at the station. Why would we take the time to fill out a report that may address health issues in the future on a regular basis, but not wear the equipment that would prevent those same issues from occurring? Attitude needs to change. There is no rush. The fire is under control. A firefighter should be in good enough shape to wear the SCBA during overhaul. So what are some of the things that can be addressed so that firefighters are wearing their SCBA during overhaul? How about having adequate personnel on the scene to perform the overhaul? Have a steady crew rotation to perform the task. If firefighters know the work will be spread out, maybe they'll keep it on longer. What about keeping the air truck on the scene long enough to fill all the air bottles before going back into service? Knowing they don't have to go back to the station and fill bottles, maybe we'll keep the SCBA on a little bit longer. How about enforcing the wearing of SCBA during training and include overhaul hazard awareness into the training? We need to upend years of ingrained cultural norms to protect our members' health. We are either scared of change or incapable of it. So it comes down to this: should we be taught or should we be told? Whichever it is, make today the day.
Hi, I'm Andy Robin. Welcome to Diesel Exhaust. It's more than soot. I'm from Harrison Fire Department here in Harrison, Ohio, in Hamilton County. I've been a firefighter for 16 years. I started as a volunteer, and for the last 11 years I've worked in career. I've also worked in a lot of bays and apparatus bays that were very cramped and had vehicles from the 1970s and 80s, putting off a lot of soot. What I thought was just soot. But you're gonna find out there's more. It's our hope here with the Voices to show you and give you some information to help and aid in getting more systems for evacuating the exhaust out of your bays. Cancer prevention is not an option, it's a responsibility. Exposures that are predictable are preventable, and I hope that you take some of these today and go for change. As you can see, each of these systems has pros and cons. You need to weigh all the pros and cons for your jurisdiction and see what fits your needs. If money's an issue, I urge you to strongly advise you to try and find a way. The Bureau of Workers' Comp has grants out there that you can apply for. In fact, our department is working on that right now so that we can have those. This is an investment in your personnel. Imagine the cost of one of your firefighters getting cancer. Now, imagine the backfill, overtime, healthcare, and all the emotional distress that not only his family will go through, but the department and personal family. These systems can take time, they take money and manpower, but they are obtainable goals for your fire department. Go out there and make this day the day. As you can see, diesel exhaust is made of thousands of chemicals, fine particulates, toxins, and carcinogens. It's not just soot. They are damaging reproductive and endocrine systems. Usually, they are divided into two main components: gases and diesel particulate matter. The gases like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, volatile organic compounds, VOCs, like formaldehyde and benzene, hydrocarbons, and nitrogen oxides are byproducts of diesel engines. Nitrogen oxides are the reason for diesel exhaust fluid or DEF fluid. Nitrogen oxides can cause higher risks of lung cancer. Having trucks with DEF systems are a great way to start with prevention. This is diesel particulate matter. It is a byproduct and it has various chemicals harmful to our health. Diesel particulate matter, or DPM, is measured in microns. That's really small. A hair on your arm is 70 microns across. Particulates are measured all the way down to 1 micron. This means they get past a lot of your defense mechanisms, making it down to your alveoli where your gases are exchanged. Chemicals inside DPM include soot and aerosols, such as ash particulates, metallic abrasion particles, sulfates, and silicates. This particulate matter puts firefighters at risk for respiratory illnesses, including lung cancer. DPM contains a large portion of the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAH, found in engine exhaust. All of these chemicals have been found in diesel exhaust. Look at that list. This is just more than soot. You see this list of short-term exposure medical problems from being exposed to diesel exhaust. Remember that every exposure is different, but this happens over a lifetime too. Imagine the first day you started in the fire service up to now. Every run, every time you start that truck, you've been exposed. The short-term exposures are eye, nose, and throat irritation, breathing irritation including coughing and phlegm production, wheezing, chest tightness, nausea, fatigue, headache, and allergic reactions. Long-term health effects of exposure to diesel include cataracts, kidney and liver damage, jaundice, increased risk of skin cancer, lung cancer, bladder cancer, gastrointestinal cancers, nodules on your lungs, respiratory diseases, and decreased lung function. There's also increased severity of existing conditions like allergies and asthma. In fact, several studies have looked for possible links between diesel exhaust and other cancers, including larynx cancer, esophagus cancer, stomach cancer, and pancreas cancer. Here you see the data from DPM across the country. These numbers are astounding, and we need to take measures of prevention. These facts can't be ignored or denied. You have an obligation to protect yourself and your employees. There are many options out there for you to choose from to lower your department's risks. Take this information and use it to reduce your diesel exhaust exposures. We have the studies, we have the reports, we have the facts right in front of us. We just need to change with them. Here's 3 ways you can lessen the amount of exhaust into your building, and they are as followed. The direct source capture systems, vehicle source capture systems, and the building space filtration systems. Direct source exhaust systems. These are systems designed to take the exhaust from your exhaust pipe directly into a hose and take it up and out of the building. These systems can use magnets or suction to assist in staying on the exhaust pipe. These systems are great because they can move with the vehicle and release just prior to exiting, and it can be applied before backing the apparatus back into the bays. You can even put these on a timer so that there's ambient air being flowed into the apparatus bay. The only thing is they're dependent on personnel. Building space filtration systems are designed to ultimately exhaust all of the air from the open space and filter it, then return fresh air. These get rid of contaminated air, but anything that the contaminated air touches may leave contaminants. You also have to change the filter often. Vehicle source capture system. Diesel exhaust fluid systems and diesel exhaust particulate filters are designed to neutralize and eliminate most of the contaminants after combustion. These systems can get anywhere from up to 90% of the particulates. DEF exhaust systems work by taking the nitrogen oxide and turning it into nitrogen and oxygen and water vapors to lessen the hazards. These can be very expensive though if they need to be repaired. Here are other ways to support reduction in exposures. These tips can be used as soon as you get back to the station. Make today the day you keep your gear away from exhaust pipes, especially on duty. This will lessen your exposure to DPM. Do not store gear in a locker in proximity of an exhaust pipe. If possible, store gear in another room or an enclosed bag away from exhaust fumes. If you make it 6 months without washing your gear from a fire incident, then wash it at least every 6 months. Open the bay doors prior to starting apparatus in the bay to dissipate exhaust from the bays. Upon returning, leave the bay door open to let residual fumes evacuate, lessening your exposure. Any door that leads from the apparatus bay to the living space must not be chocked open for airflow, but must remain closed. Check the seals. Check for gaps. Try to maintain a good barrier between any living space connected to your apparatus bay. Clean your bay floors, walls, and ceilings when particulate matter is found. Move any ice or water fountains out of the bays into an uncontaminated area. Diesel particulate matter can be ingested and wreak havoc on your digestive system, your endocrine system, and your reproductive system. Now that you're informed, go back and implement as many safety measures to protect your firefighters. Take the time and invest in the health of our vital workforce. Working towards a healthier tomorrow starts today. Thank you for your time, and remember, cancer prevention isn't an option, it's a responsibility. Thanks to organizations like OSHA, NIOSH, EPA, National Toxicological Program, the World Health Organization, NTP, NCI, and the International Agency of Cancer, the IARC. They all conclude that diesel exhaust is a Group 1 carcinogen. This means it is a known carcinogen. All these organizations claiming the same information should really be ringing a bell here. We know that the diesel exhaust causes cancer, thus, fire prevention is not an option, it is a responsibility.
My name is Trevor Snyder. I'm the fire investigator for the City of Hamilton Fire Department. First thing I'd like to do is challenge each one of you. My challenge to you is make today the day. We all know that there's dangers that are going to exist when we respond to a fire scene. Why not take the precautions now to help prevent health concerns for us tomorrow? I'm here to talk to you about fire investigations and what we can do on the scene conducting a fire investigation to keep us safe. The International Association of Arson Investigators conducted research. What they found was, even though we have a long way to go to protect our firefighters on the scene, fire investigators are not keeping pace with some of the changes being made. We need to do a better job at that to protect ourselves. When we show up on a fire scene, oftentimes fire investigators show up right away during suppression. It could be days later. If we show up during suppression and you make the determination you need to enter the building to take photographs so you don't lose evidence before overhaul's taking place, is it safe for us to enter? We should be entering with the same protective gear as the firefighters there working to put the fire out. We need to have full firefighter gear on with complete SCBA. We should not be entering an atmosphere that's unsafe for us to enter. If we show up days later, don't confuse a cold scene with a safe scene. Just because it's cold, think of going into a dark room with your spotlight as you're conducting overhaul. Every time you move something, all those particulates, you can see them floating in the air in front of that light. There's no different a couple days later when we take each shovel, each movement, everything we move, we're reintroducing those particulates into the air and we're breathing it. There's no excuse to not enter the scene with a minimum of a fitted air purifying respirator. We must protect ourselves from inhalation hazards on the scene. Depending on the air quality, that's going to determine the level of safety that we need to use. Not all investigations are conducive to wearing a full SCBA because of the hours that we could be sitting there sifting through that material, but we're literally faced with the dirt. We are down there sifting through debris, trying to find that trace evidence that's in that debris. We cannot be in that atmosphere and breathe all that in without protecting ourselves. The next thing I want to talk to you is about what equipment are you wearing? What protective gear are you wearing while you're in that scene? Are you wearing full protective firefighter gear? Are you wearing coveralls? Are they cloth coveralls that can be bagged up, transported, and cleaned properly at the firehouse? Or do you have disposable coveralls? Are you showing up in just duty pants and a short sleeve t-shirt to conduct your scene? You shouldn't be. We need to make sure to cover our skin to protect ourselves from any absorbent hazards as well. Some of our investigations are lengthy. You can be in there for hours on your hands and knees. You need to take breaks. You need to rehab just like fire crews do. When you're outside, during every break, wipe yourself off. Do you have wipes with you? Different types of wipes that you can clean your face, clean your skin, clean your arms, clean your hands. Wipe those contaminants off. Do it multiple times while you're in the scene. You don't want to continue to have that on your skin to absorb those hazards. Are you limited on the amount of water you have on the scene? If this is all the clean water you have on the scene, what's stopping you from getting a 2.5 adapter that you can hook onto a hydrant that's reduced down to a garden hose? Carry a garden hose, carry reducers down with you so you can crack that hydrant open enough to where you have unlimited water supply. While you're using that, you can use that to clean yourself. You can use it to clean your equipment and your tools. You never want to place dirty tools back in your vehicle and transport them with you because all you're doing is contaminating everything else in your vehicle. Make sure you have the resources with you on the scene to clean all your tools. If you don't have the ability to clean them properly, make sure you have bags. Carry bags with you and bag up your equipment until you can get it back and properly clean your tools. Don't cross-contaminate your vehicle. Going to the scene. Are your investigators, are you responding in a department vehicle? Or are you responding from home in your personal vehicle? Cross-contamination is a big issue. I have vinyl seats. I'm able to clean the inside of my cab regularly and often. You have to make sure to clean all your equipment so you're not contaminating anything. I've got spare boots that I carry. I carry boots with me that I get to the scene. The first thing I do is I change my boots. So when I get those dirty, I'm not climbing back into the cab of my truck and contaminating everything inside. Use that, bag them up, and carry them back till you can properly clean them. Scrub your tools. Once again, do you have the equipment necessary to scrub your tools, to scrub your boots, to scrub yourself off, to clean all these contaminants off of you? We need to discuss how you transport your equipment. Do you have your SCBA with you at all times? Do you have one in your vehicle? Or do you have to get one off of other resources that are on the scene? If you carry it, do you carry it in its own container where you can keep it clean before you put it in there. Make sure you clean it, keep it in a good atmosphere. Same thing with your APRs. If you're carrying an air purifying respirator, do you clean it after every use? Do you change your cartridges? And do you store them in a container inside your vehicle away from all the other hazards that can cross-contaminate it? We need to make sure to take care of our equipment so we can keep ourselves safe on the scene. You have buckets, you have water, you have garden hose for unlimited water when you're on a fire scene after all the units go back in service and you don't have a fire truck there to use their hose lines. You have unlimited resources to use. I've got clean towels bagged up. So when I make my soap solution to clean myself, to clean my tools, I've got towels that I can use to wipe everything down. Make sure you have everything as clean as you can before you place it back in your vehicle. It just lowers your risks to contaminate yourself later on. As individual fire investigators, as officers, as leaders of our organizations, as fire chiefs, we have to make sure the policies are in place to protect our members. We have to provide them with the knowledge, the resources, and the tools to keep ourselves safe on the scene so we don't take this home to our families and we deal with the health concerns later in life. Make today the day. Make today the day for change. Go back to your departments. Go back to and get your resources that you need to keep yourself safe. Make today the day.
Hi, my name is Chantel Banks and I am 19 years old and I'm on the Carlisle Fire Department as a volunteer firefighter, and I have been on here for a year now, and I am also a student at the University of Cincinnati and I am receiving my bachelor's degree in fire science, and that is how I started my whole journey on discovering what gross decontamination. Firefighters are at a 9% higher rate of developing cancer, and we are 14% higher risk of dying from that cancer, which is astounding. But from that, there are also certain cancers that we are more likely to develop than the general public. One of these is esophageal cancer. We are 69% more likely to develop esophageal cancer and 39% more likely to die from esophageal cancer than the general public, which is easily stopped by just taking simple steps of washing your gear, doing gross decontamination, and among other things. So one of the ways that the research is showing to mitigate the carcinogens on your gear is to simply wash them. And by doing so, you are rinsing off and fully cleaning your gear. This should be done after every fire, or depending on your manufacturer, at least once or twice a year, even if it's just sitting on a shelf. And this makes sure that your gear is fully cleaned and is ready to go when you need it. About the gear, it should also not be kept near diesel exhaust fumes. If it is, then it is absorbing all of those carcinogens that are also in that fumes, and over time it builds up, and on top of the fires that you were going into, those carcinogens are embedded in your gear. So if it is at all possible, make sure your gear is not being stored where it is exposed to those fumes. And it has been shown from research that a wet decon is the most effective way to remove surface contamination. It removes a median reduction in PAH of 85%. And this is huge. That is 85% less of the contaminants that you're exposing yourself to after a fire while you're still on scene. And also, in order to reap the full benefits of your gross decon, you need to make sure you wear your full PPE throughout the entire process. That includes your SCBA, which is really what stops you from inhaling the cancer from your gear off-gassing. So in order to perform a wet gross decon, you need very few items. You need a 5-gallon bucket, an industrial scrub brush, an adapter from a 2.5 to a garden hose. You need garden hose. You need Dawn dish soap. You need EMS gloves, an N95 mask, safety glasses, you need a nozzle with a reservoir, and safety cone. And all of these things will be used to set up your gross decontamination area. It is very cheap and very easy to implement at any station, including our own volunteer department here at Carlisle. And this is a video of example of gross decon. While it may seem that the fire service does not need wet decontamination, it is vital to the furthering of the fire service. It will improve the health and safety of future generations by lessening those carcinogens that we are exposed to over and over again. Cancer is a caveat of the fire service, so it's always going to be here, but the way we deal with it and the way we continue to prevent it is vital. So, Future generations want to be able to become old firefighters, and to do that we need your help by implementing procedures like these at our stations. So make today the day that you implement a wet gross decon procedure at your station. This will help young firefighters like me become older firefighters. So protect those around you and those that come after you from inhaling cancer. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brent Schmergy. I'm a volunteer here at the Watkins Fire Department. I also work for Fire Safety Services.
I'm Bruce Scheck, and I'm the Regional Sales Manager for Fire Decks in the Midwest area.
Something we want to go over today that we notice in our travels through the state is transporting contaminated fire gear, where to put it, how to correctly do it, how to correctly doff your PPE. It's known that firefighter turnout gear and PPE can off-gas long after the fire scene has ended, so we want to hit on some topics today, how to limit your exposure.
So it's really important that after gross deconning that you properly and carefully remove your PPE and be able to put it in some sort of a decon bag, much like the one seen here that's provided by Fire Decks. You don't want to transport your product back to the station without having it in a bag, whether it's in your personal vehicle or in the fire truck. So as an example, Brent has taken off his PPE and we're going to put it into the bag. And the bag should be sealed up. Put into a compartment, and then probably the best thing to do at this point is be able to clean your hands and get ready to go back to the station.
As I travel in my area for fire safety services, I notice there's a lot of volunteer fire departments that keep their turnout gear in their personal vehicle. And us at Fire Safety and at Fire Decks, we want to just let people know to be more careful when you're transporting your turnout gear. You want to protect yourself and possibly, protect your family that could come in contact with your personal vehicle. So we want to make sure we're putting it in a gear bag if you're putting your turnout gear in your personal vehicle.
So now that we're back at the station, the next thing that has to be done is to clean your gear. But it's pretty important to think about putting on some PPE to clean your gear. Maybe a protective mask and protective gloves to, again, reduce your repeated exposures to the gear, to the things that are on the gear. From there, simply disassemble your gear, wash in accordance to NFPA 1851 guidelines.
So going forward, we know way too much today about the fire service and cancer. So we have seen multiple different ways to limit our exposures, and I've got Bruce here to tell us a little bit about that.
One of the things that's going on today is the fire departments are learning not to wear their structural fire gear for all calls. They're learning to select other items of PPE that they can wear to reduce the repeated exposure to the things that are on the turnout gear. So it's just something to consider as you go forward, that maybe you shouldn't be wearing your turnout gear as often as you are.
Cancer prevention is no longer an option. It is a responsibility. I'm going to make today the day, and I hope you do as well. I'm a new father. I've got 1-year-old twins at home, and I've started to think about how far carcinogens can transfer, whether it's from the fire scene back to the firehouse, all the way back to our own house. So if you take anything out of this video, please understand, be safe, be smart, and learn about cancer prevention. Thank you, and here's a video to show both fire family and your home family. Thank you.
My mom was a firefighter and a paramedic, and my stepdad was as well.
It's a great feeling.
It is contagious and will spread through your family.
I knew I wanted to do it. It's the joy of actually working with other firemen, the brotherhood, and doing something good for the public.
We have 2 families now. We've got our family here at home and the brothers that I live with at the fire station.
People don't realize all the danger that a firefighter puts themselves into.
We have to build that confidence and trust between each other. You're going in and things turn south. I got to know you have my back and vice versa.
Yeah, you see stuff together, you hear stuff together, stuff that is unimaginable. In order to get through that kind of stuff, you just bond together like glue and, check on your people, make sure everyone's still okay, and just keep going.
I don't think that will ever change. The family atmosphere in the fire service will never go away. A good example is that, unfortunately, there's been a fatality recently. You'll see all the firefighters converging to that area. People have never met him. They will go to pay respect and show his family what they were part of.
Our gear is helping protect the outside, making sure that their hands are safe. We have special hoods that help block some carcinogens.
With the advancements that we have now in our turnout gear and our decon process at the station, I see that being very beneficial to me and to my younger guys that are underneath me to get us all through to retirement and beyond.
Our gear is going to help protect them. They don't have to worry about what they have on.
How about we start implementing policies right now to protect the firefighters so that we don't have to worry about burying another brother, taking a father away from his kids, from his wife, from his family, from both families, from his fire family and from his immediate family. Changes need to come, and the sooner the better that we implement them now and not wait till something happens.
Now that you've finished your decon class, what comes next? Simply put, developing a proper SOP or SOG should be in your future. One of the most important things that we do is develop these policies and guidelines to make sure our folks know what we expect of them and how to do it, and to do it properly. Something as vital as having clean gear should not be up to their discretion. It should be something that we should set a rule for. So the next step is for you to sit down with your chief, your training officer, your battalion, whoever it is, and discuss what your guideline is, what it's going to say, what it's going to want them to do. Make sure that it's something that every member of your department can accomplish. Don't write rules that you can't enforce. Your level of enforcement is the only way that you're going to guarantee that your people are doing the right thing. I'm Chief Tim Thomas with the Fairfield Township Fire Department. Thanks for taking the class and good luck in your career.
My name's Kevin Hardwick. I'm the fire chief for the Glendale Fire Department, just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. Today I'd talk to you about a good friend of mine, a fellow firefighter, someone that I got to know through the fire service, Tim Burns. Tim Burns and I go back many years when Tim first became a part of our department at the time in New Burlington Fire Department. Tim's father and I worked side by side as firefighters. So I got to know Tim when he was 9 or 10 years old, coming to the firehouse, hanging out, and being part of the firefighter life, volunteer firefighter life at the time. As Tim continued to grow and develop, and decided to become an explorer and learn more about firefighting, that was a point where I was the coordinator for the Explorer program. Got to know Tim again even better. Bringing Tim into the picture, and all of our explorers were there to learn how to be a firefighter, how to be an EMT, what it's like in the fire service, experience that at 15, 16 years old. Once Tim was able to get his certification through the state of Ohio, he then ventured out, started with the New Burlington Department, worked with a number of other departments in the area as a part-time firefighter, ultimately landed a full-time job at the Westchester Fire Department. Funny thing is I got to join Tim at Westchester for a few years as an inspector, so again, more working with Tim. But the darkest day in my life as a fire chief was when you get the call, "Chief, we need to talk." Those are the days that you just don't ever want to face. When you walk into an office with a firefighter and his wife, and you can sense the tension, you know it's not good. And then to be told, oh, I have cancer. Tim was diagnosed with renal cancer at that point. Tim went through all kinds of therapy, all kinds of treatment to try and fight, and he fought this to the very end. Tim was like a little brother to me. It was hard to go through. It was hard to see him and his family. Tim had teenage twin boys, and it was very hard. It was hard on everybody. One of the conversations that I had with Tim was to say, we have to make a difference. We have to make something better for the next generation. This job is dangerous enough without the fact of the cancers. So what can we do to prepare? What can we build into our system to lessen the risk? You know, risk reduction is where we're at. That's why we're here today. We're here to learn. We're here to teach. We're here to network with other people in the fire service all over to learn what we can do to have risk reduction in the jobs that we have. This job is a passion. It's not a job, it's a passion. But what can we do to make it better? You know, I have a son that's in the fire service. I have a grandson in the fire service. I want them to have a better opportunity than what I have. That's going to take time, effort, and whatever we do to make that better, that's the steps that we're going to take. What can we do? Today we can do, just like I said, you learn. The more you learn, the better you feel, the more you can share with your people. Those are all beneficial to making our world in the fire service a better place today as we move forward. After Tim passed away, we felt we wanted to honor Tim and what he's done for our fire department. We had a plaque made and installed on our firehouse in honor of Tim. Tim was a mentor to many of the people. He was involved in hiring people, bringing them into this department and teaching them what it would be like even from the young age that we bring them in. We start with explorers here now as well. But we put Tim's plaque right at the front, so every time we come into our fire station, the first person they see or remember is Tim. His name's right here on the front. He gets to see us, and we get to see Tim all the time, and for that we're thankful.
Hello, my name is David Pickering. I currently am the Assistant Fire Chief with the Westchester Township Fire Department in Butler County, Ohio. On September the 11th, 2001, I was deployed to the Ground Zero disaster site in New York City with Ohio Task Force 1 Urban Search and Rescue, one of 28 FEMA teams in the United States. We deployed with 75 plus personnel, with also with canine assets for search and rescue efforts. We arrived at Ground Zero on September the 12th. We were activated on the 9th. We were activated on 9/11, and we drove through the evening, reaching New York City about daybreak on the morning of the 12th. We operated for approximately 10 days until the 22nd of September, at which time FEMA deactivated us and rotated other urban search and rescue teams in to relieve us. All of the disaster site was a disaster of epic proportions. The photos, the videos just simply did not do it justice. Another thing that most people didn't see was just the amount of contamination and debris that covered all of lower Manhattan. It's estimated that approximately 400 tons of pulverized concrete, pulverized glass, asbestos, pulverized human remains covered all of lower Manhattan, which contributed to a lot of the exposures that the first responders were were subject to. During our response, we used as personal protective equipment. We were outfitted in military-style BDUs. We had a rescue helmet, leather rescue boots, leather rescue gloves, arm pads, knee pads. For respiratory protection, we utilized half face piece respirators with particulate cartridges. And then we also utilized paper dust masks when we got there because of the ineffectiveness of our respiratory protection, our face pieces. The face pieces were ineffective because they quickly became clogged with all the dust and contamination that was in the air. And we had a very limited supply of cartridges. We simply weren't prepared for the usage that we needed. We worked 12-hour shifts, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, where we would then be rotated back to our rear staging area. We utilized a forward staging area of a Chase Manhattan bank that was approximately 1 block away from the World Trade Center. That bank had its windows blown out during the collapse of the Twin Towers and the Trade Center, and every inch of that bank was covered in dust and contamination. But that was our forward staging area for our equipment, and it was also our rest and rehab area. While we were at the Trade Center disaster site, we would then go back to the bank to retrieve equipment and necessary items to perform the rescues and recoveries that we were tasked with. It's hard to explain just the amount of debris and contamination. It just covered everything. It was on every inch everywhere you went. There was no way to get out of the contamination. So no matter where you were operating, no matter where you were at, even in rehab, we were being exposed to all the contamination. When I returned from 9/11 after we were deactivated, about 1 week post return home, I developed pneumonia and was in the hospital for approximately a week with a severe case of pneumonia. Subsequent to that, I've had 4 other bouts of pneumonia, so I've had a lot of health issues from my response to 9/11. I've been diagnosed with adult onset asthma and early stages of COPD. As a result of that, the pneumonia bouts, I filed a federal workman's comp claim, which was denied for up to a year. And it wasn't until the 1-year anniversary, when a local news station did a piece on first responders and the anniversary, that they talked about my denial of my federal workman's comp claim. And due to Senator Rob Portman's intervention the very next day, magically my claim was approved. So the documentation that we gathered while I was deployed, we have team physicians that deploy with us that documented our medical efforts, and all of that was a big part of my claim being approved. The other thing that I have been involved in and have done since operating at Ground Zero is I'm part of the World Trade Center Health Registry. And what the Health Registry is it is a registry where all first responders can sign up, and then we are given annual physicals, free annual physicals, to study the health effects of our response to 9/11 and document our health changes. As far as illnesses and deaths at Ground Zero, on 9/11, 2,753 people died as a result of the World Trade Center attack. Since 9/11, it's estimated that about 2,000 first responders have suffered deaths from 9/11 related illnesses and diseases. It's estimated that by the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the number of first responders that have died as a result of ground zero related illnesses and deaths will surpass the number of people that were killed on the day of the attack. As far as lessons learned for myself, the first one is protect yourself. We had respiratory protection, but it was just ineffective. Whether it was a half face piece respirator or a dust mask, just simply because they were ineffective, we were unable to use them. We could have made better usage of our respiratory protection. It was easier for us as responders to work without them, and then in hindsight, I look back and think that we could have used them more often to better protect ourselves. We were still, no matter what we did, going to be exposed to the contamination, but we could have better utilized our equipment. Documenting your exposure. When you're exposed to a contaminant, to any type of health concern, you need to document those exposures. As I said, that was a big part of my being approved for a federal workman's comp claim, was the amount of documentation that our team physicians provided us. You need to, another thing that I learned was that you need to utilize the services that are provided to first responders, especially post-exposure. For me, the World Trade Center Health Registry that has been a big part of documenting my illness, documenting my exposure, and making sure that my health changes are documented. The exposures that we were subject to on 9/11 were ones that, I don't think they could have been prevented. This is one case where a disaster of epic proportions just forced us to do things that we normally wouldn't do in the fire service. But you need to be prepared. We could have been better prepared, and I think we've learned our lessons learned from that is taking care of ourselves, making sure that we're providing adequate protection for our responders, and then making sure that we document and make sure that we are providing documentation of our exposures. This is one of those examples where even when you try and do everything right, responders are still exposed to the harmful effects of the disaster, and now we know that those effects are killing our responders, and I think about all the people that I work with, and all the people that were there, and now the people that have post 9/11 that have passed because of the work they did. I wouldn't hesitate for a minute to go back and do it again. I'm very proud of the work we did, and I'm very grateful to all the people that responded with me, and all the help that we gave the citizens of New York. So please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Centers, Fire Chief with the City of Monroe Fire Department in Butler County, Ohio. We're here today to talk to you a little bit about cancer reduction policies within your individual fire departments and why that is so critically important. Let's talk a little bit about what we know today. Nearly 2 out of 3 firefighter deaths are attributed to cancer. We know that firefighters are at a higher risk to obtain cancer than the normal layperson is. And we know that the byproducts of smoke that we're dealing with today in our structure fires is putting off chemicals that are far more dangerous than they were 20 or 30 years ago. We know that our staff members have a higher risk of cancer overall. On June 28, 2011, we lost firefighter Kenny Ellis to cancer. Kenny served nearly 3 decades as a firefighter, an officer, a trainer, a mentor, and a friend. He balanced his 2 families very well, his firefighter family and his personal family. Kenny battled cancer for nearly 3 years, and we did what firefighters normally do when a brother or sister firefighter falls ill. We did fundraisers, we provided meals, we helped out with transportation, covering shifts, and ultimately planning for the worst. We got our dress uniforms together, and we got our morning bands, and we prepared the truck for that last ride. We know that dying firefighters really only want 2 things, and that's to be healthy and to be able to get back to work. So there are a lot of excuses that folks have not to adopt aggressive cancer-related policies within their departments. It takes more time, it takes a lot of effort. Firefighters don't adopt change very well. Let me say this about those excuses. Cancer is killing our firefighters. Let me say that again. Cancer is currently killing our firefighters. These excuses just don't work anymore. This is not a secret, it's not new information, and it's not unfounded information. We have a business history in the fire service of adapting to changes. Many, many years ago, we had folks that were falling off the tailboards of fire trucks, and we changed those things. We were losing firefighters due to a lack of accountability, and we adopted new systems to tackle those issues. The turnout gear we were using in the early years was not rated very well, and we had firefighters getting burned. We did a lot of research and a lot of studies to get them in gear that protected them better. What we're dealing with today is no different. We adapted to those changes, and we need to adapt to this change, and we need to do it quickly. You don't have to adopt everything today. You can adopt small versions of cancer reduction within your own department that have little to no cost. Being able to do decon at scenes with a bucket and brushes does not have a high cost value attached to it. Continuing to wear SCBAs, even when the fire seems to be out or there's very limited or no smoke, does not have an additional cost attached to it. We need to take baby steps, and we need to start moving towards having these policies and procedures in place. The days of having dirty gear and dirty helmets, transporting those in passenger compartments of our vehicles, or bringing them into the living spaces of our fire stations has to stop, and it has to stop immediately. We implore you to make today the day. Make those changes, get the policies underway. You are able to do these things because we've done these things before. Cancer prevention is no longer an option. It's a responsibility, and it's ours. Thank you.